Okay, yeah, welcome, gentlemen, to our May 2023 St. Paul Speaker Series, where our guest today is Mr. Billy Katontoka, who's a good friend of mine, and he'll be talking to us about different things that pertain to environmental investment or investing, so different vehicles that people can use for that. Mr. Katontoka, this group comprises people from St. Paul's Secondary School in Kabwe. It's an alumni group, but we get participants from our counterpart schools like Chipembi Secondary School, and also people in the government and private sectors. So you basically share your screen and make your presentation, and then we shall have some questions after that. Please
thank you so much. Thank you so much. And let me say thank you for the opportunity. So let's see what it is that I did have prepared for the team. And then from there on, we can dive deep into the presentation that was prepared. Allow me, as I'm trying to navigate and locate my presentation. So this is why am I not seeing? Why am I not seeing my presentation? Doc, Namundo.
I downloaded it on my side, and then you want me to share the one I downloaded.
The one that I sent you on LinkedIn, eh?
Yeah, you sent me that, I downloaded it, yes.
Yeah. If you can share, that would be great. But though I really wanted to share from here so I can have control.
Okay. We'll wait for you to locate it.
Okay. Portion of screen. Okay. So portions advanced, portion of screen. Let's see. Are you able to see clearly, or I need to change?
No, it's perfect.
It's
perfect.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Gentlemen, I think as a way of introduction, as Doc has mentioned, we come a long way, and I count it an honor and a privilege that from the humble beginnings of University of Zambia, today we can be able to sit around the table and share great opportunities and great ideas. Currently, I'm working with the Zambia Industrial Commercial Bank. This bank has now been in its 5th year of operation. And my pedigree when it comes to carbon markets and climate finance goes as far as 2008. I started my journey in this space when I was in Australia doing my MBA. Once I finished doing my MBA, I joined a firm that exposed me to these markets and got me trained in that space. Coming back to Zambia in 2010, this space was non-existent at that particular time, but did get some work with COMESA, where I was a consultant for them for climate finance, going around the country, their member state countries, to train them on climate finance. And now, full circle around, thankfully, we've got a government that is forward-looking, that understands the opportunity that is before us, and them setting aside a ministry that speaks to environmental issues and how Zambia can then take advantage of it. This has now become like the topic of the day. So I'm here to share what I know, and would love to get your feedback. I'll answer where I can. If I don't know, I'll be quick to say I don't know, and I'll do my research and get back to you with an answer. I'm not here to pretend like I'm a full-time expert, but I think I do know quite a lot at this stage. So with that said, I want to mention that as a bank, we are actually taking this new pathway of monetizing environmental assets on behalf of our customers. And those customers are the ones I'm talking to right now, and how we can then turn around and operate in the space of the 3 Ps, That's people, planet, and profit. So with that said, I want to say that I will lay the foundation first and foremost to do with where the whole aspect of sustainable finance or carbon markets or climate finance is coming from, where it anchors its roots, and then from there, then also lay the foundation for the current prevailing regulatory environment in Zambia. And then from that point of view, then take a practical approach where yourselves and myself, we exchange ideas on how you can, as an individual or as a company, can take advantage of this opportunity and, you know, not only make money, but contribute to the environment and create an enabling environment for your children who are coming behind. With that said, allow me to go to the next slide, just to show you how beautiful our forests are at times. So basically, can you see the full slide, or it's I can see on my screen, it's like it's in a box, a green box, and then others are falling out. Is that how you're seeing it?
It seems it's bleeding a little bit.
Okay. Let me just allow me to first let me stop the sharing and then begin the sharing. PowerPoint, I think. Is that any better now? Let's see.
Yes, that's perfect.
That's better. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So is it in? Okay. Anyway, so this being the case, if you're able to see my slides, that sounds good. So basically, the aspect of climate finance or the aspect of environmental assets sits in the space or under the background of the Paris Agreement. Now, the Paris Agreement is an agreement that was established in 2015, but came into full force in 2016. So under the Paris Agreement, we had about 196 parties to the UNFCCC, which stands for United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change. So this was done in 2015, and at that meeting, a lot of all the 196 countries came together and acknowledged the effects or the impacts of climate change. And pledges were made in terms of the monies required to help countries like Zambia transition through a low carbon growth pathway. And also pledges were made on how to contain the global warming, because they established that a global warming goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius was going to be helpful. Actually, 2% degrees Celsius was going to be helpful for sustaining the environment. However, the higher target that was set was that we needed to contain the global warming to the levels of 1.5 degrees Celsius pre-industrial development levels. So to be able to do that, there's a need for mitigation measures, both on individual level, community level, country level, that needed to be put in place such that our activities, or what they call anthropogenic activities, or do not in any way impact the increase in temperature. And as a result, because developing countries are still developing compared to developed countries, developing countries were then told to come up with what is known as NDCs. NDCs, that's an acronym for Nationally Determined Contributions. And that is to say, we would come up with a target of which would say this is how much contribution Zambia will make in terms of reducing the greenhouse gases, which stands for GHG. So that is what, that's where all these things are are coming from. And because of this, then we have different frameworks that have come up that also speak to different agendas to be able to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius reduction or containment. And these have to do with establishing projects like, no, don't implement coal-powered projects, but instead use things like hydropower, use like things like geothermal, use things like nuclear energy, because these are considered to be cleaner energies, whereas coal, because it's got the emission where you get to have the methane and other gases being emitted. So different categorizations of projects, as I'll show you as we go on, will have been itemized as renewable or environmental friendly, and others have been dubbed as dirty way of growing, of development. So there has to be a distinction. So with that said, then there's an opportunity where at the moment, if you follow closely and clearly, I think Doc, where you're coming from, the US and in Europe. So I'll begin with Europe. Europe, they have got what they call the EU ETS system, which is the European Union Emission Trading System. Under the ETS system, the situation is that countries and companies in the EU bloc, they still continue to emit, but they have been told to say they need to reduce their emission. So each year they come up with targets. So they would say, company X, in 2024, how many emissions do you think you are going to be able to emit? And company X will tell the ETS regulatory system to say, no, we'll do only 20,000 tons of emissions. Another company Y will say, no, we'll only do 15,000 tons of emissions. So those companies, they give their own targets. And those targets are then enshrined in the agreement. But in the process of course of doing business, in the event that company X that said they will emit only 20,000 and they exceed and they emit like 30,000, it means that they will need to find the excess 10,000 tons of emissions to be able to compensate for the what they have gone over and above. And therein comes in now an opportunity for us who are here to be able to say, okay, me, I'm in Zambia and I'm not emitting. At my farm, if anything, I've got so many trees around me and I've planted some trees. I've planted trees that are giving me money like avocados. I've planted trees that are giving me money like macadamia, oranges. So these trees, in the course of the day, they are able to sequester carbon. So then you are able to say, I can quantify this carbon and sell it to you so that you can meet your offset requirements. So you go into some form of an agreement with such a company, then they buy those emissions from you. Or you can say, no, I run a meat processing company, and at my company, I don't use any dirty energy like diesel, but I use solar PV. So in essence, I am actually contributing to a cleaner environment. In that sense, then again, you can find a buyer who can buy, or someone who can help you quantify the emissions that you have saved, and those becomes what we call carbon credits, and which you then can sell to the person over or another company overseas that is looking for excess. So that's how the trade is basically on opportunity cost of having done something, and then you look at someone who is actually doing it better than you, and then you get to buy, because we are all living in a global village. I know I've said a lot and missed out some of the key points, but I want to stimulate conversation so that we can then start thinking around it and then come and have a conversation as we go on. So what is the current state of the carbon markets in Zambia? and what has happened in Zambia so far. Since from the 2015, 2016 timelines. So you can imagine from 2016 to date, which is about another seven years or so, we still only have 16 projects that have been certified that can sell credits under what we call the Clean Development Mechanism or the verified carbon standards. And those credits are coming from 80% of those credits, as you can see on the right-hand side, are coming from the renewable energy. Then we have improved cook stoves. So when we're talking about renewable energy, that's where the solar PV would fall in, the hydropower generation would fall in there, the biodiesel, they would fall in there. Improved cook stoves are those stoves that are using lesser charcoal or lesser wood fuel. And then when we talk about the agriculture and forestry projects, now this is where we're talking about projects that we call like agroforestry or RED+ projects. So in essence, the opportunity is there in Zambia, but what is lacking is the capacity or understanding on how to develop a project from initiation to full delivery of the credits so that then you are able to sell. And that has been the challenge. This challenge is not only unique to Zambia, it's unique to most African countries. And that's why, as a bank, where we're coming from is that we want to develop the capacity of the local people so that the local people can then understand the opportunity that is before them. And once they understand the opportunity that is before them, then they can be able to develop projects. Once they develop those projects, we have put it upon ourselves to say, let us help find the buyers of the carbon credits. Because in Europe and hopefully in the American, there are companies that have set targets for themselves, which they are calling net zero targets or net zero KPIs by 2030. What that means is that they have pledged to say they will stop the emissions and they will take a low carbon pathway. But in the interim, while they are looking at decarbonizing their operational methods, they are looking at buying carbon offsets, carbon credits from countries like Zambia. And that's where we are saying we are on the supply side. We can supply those credits, but we need to find the demand side. Those companies, how does an ordinary Zambian or a small company in Zambia find a buyer for those credits? It becomes a complex conversation. But a bank like ourselves, through different networks that we have been able to latch onto some of those buyers and create a complete ecosystem where you can develop a project through us all the way to delivery, and we also help you find a buyer of your credits and therefore create a complete process. So that's what we are doing as a bank in that space. And again, I will invite some questions from you as I come to the end of my presentation. So what is the current position for Zambia when it comes to its national determined contributions? Zambia's national determined contributions have actually been revised as early as July 2021. We as a country have committed, based on the Paris Agreement, like I earlier mentioned, to reduce our total emission by 20 million by 20 metric tons of CO2 by 2030. So that's quite a big commitment. And the emission reduction is, we've put a condition to say it has to be in a place where we are been given climate finance. Now, climate finance was pledged at the Paris Agreement, where they said every year there was going to be mobilization of funds about to a tune of $100 million a year, but that has not happened. And those funds have not flown, have not started trickling. They just trickle, but they have not started coming through. So at the end of the day, it's either we continue business as usual or we wait for those funds to come, or we come up with our own initiatives like this platform. This is a very wonderful initiative where we are taking initiative to share ideas. We're not waiting for someone from outside the country to come and tell us to say, no, you sit down around the table and have a conversation. But we're making our own initiatives to discuss. In the same way, we can sit again, make our own initiative to develop projects. And then by the time the West is coming, we will be the one dictating the terms under which we operate, we work with them. So the sectors that are covered under the national determined contribution are sustainable forest management, sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, energy efficiency projects. Those are what was initially identified as Zambia's gentlemen, excuse me, I'm moving a little bit from one place to another because I was waiting for a meeting room. So I'm just moving slightly. So if you hear me breaking up, it's because I'm moving. Yeah.
No worries, no worries. This is very exciting.
Okay. So I think now I have a room to myself. Okay. So like I was saying, to say the sectors that have been identified that are covered under the national determined contributions, sustainable forest management, sustainable agriculture, renewable energy, energy efficiency. So just to give example of sustainable forest management, this could be where you plant your pine trees for, say, for instance, your end game is to sell the pine trees to ZESCO as or maybe your eucalyptus trees to sell your pine trees as your eucalyptus trees as poles for the ZESCO power lines. So you can grow those trees, and those trees, by the time they'll be maturing in about 15 years, or you start harvesting by the time they are 8 years. So for the past 8 years, those trees will be sequestering carbon in their trunks as well as in the soil. So carbon sequestration for the tree happens in two ways. There's what we call above the ground and below the ground. Above the ground is a sequestration that happens in the tree trunk, in the branches of the tree. The below the ground is a sequestration that happens in the root system of the tree, as well as into the soils. So when you cut that tree, you will have removed the carbon emission you will have released them from the tree trunk, but you still have the carbon sequestered in the ground. So there you are growing that particular tree for with the purpose of using it for your business, but it's also helping the environment. And because it's sustainable, you will not just grow once. You will have different lots going at different stages, and therefore you are able to, as you are cutting, others are growing. As you are cutting, others are growing, and as you are cutting, then you are replanting as well. So that is one aspect. And I think Mr. Minimo can add to that eventually as we continue talking. And then there's sustainable agriculture, or what we call climate smart agriculture. Climate smart agriculture, again, is all about preserving the soil content into preserving the carbon content in the soil, so that at the end of the day, you don't, when you are doing your tilling of the ground, you just make furrows in the ground without turning the soil up, so that the carbon that is already stored in the soil remains in the soil. Then when we're talking about renewable energy, of course, it goes without saying, we are talking about solar, we're talking about wind, we are talking about so solar, wind, and we're talking about hydro, we're talking about bio, we're talking about biogas, there's just geothermal, there's just a myriad of different renewable energy sources that falls under that category. When we talk about energy efficiency, we're talking about, for instance, bringing it closer to home, is about you in your home changing the light bulbs that you use. Instead of using the incandescent light bulbs, you start using LED bulbs. Even in the and even in choosing says fridge, the fridge, that doesn't use a lot of electricity, a lot of energy. So that is what that is all about as well. So to that effect, that is what transpires. If you just again, I'm going to say, hold on a little bit. Let me just attend to my CEO. I'll be back.
Okay.
Just a second, please.
Sure.
There's a lot of money to be made in this, Prof.
It seems like, there's it's very fascinating to me.
So I'll give you an example. One company I used to work for, a coal mining company, they actually have a whole division that was a whole new company actually that was developed for this purpose. And what they do is they'll go and buy, for example, a plot of land and create a wetlands or plant trees or whatever, and then they sell these to companies. And so this part of the company actually makes more money for the company than the coal mining does now because of just the demand. So it's a lot of money.
That's fascinating. I mean, that's how Tesla makes money too. So Tesla makes all these little cars, and they'll say, we made 10,000 Model 3s that might replace 10,000 Camrys. And the Camry is emitting, a ton of CO every year. So give us that equivalence. So the federal government pays Tesla some money for carbon credits.
I'm curious, so how, as maybe from a quantification standpoint, how much does, for example, an acre of pine trees, how much carbon does that capture?
We have two people on the call that can answer that. I just saw Ms. Zulu, who's the principal forestry officer. She just joined. Maybe she can answer that one.
Good afternoon, all.
Afternoon.
Yes. So in terms of carbon for, let's say, a hectare of pine, I think it depends on the environment, because trees grow differently in different environments. And I think it's important to do some baseline and collect data to see how much carbon can be stored. But I think indigenous species store more carbon. I think so, because of the leaves and the foliage and all that. Yeah, that's what I can say. We don't have that data right now, but I think when we do some computations, we should be able to talk about how much carbon is in the same pie.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on what Madam Zulu has explained, that's why, for a country like Zambia, or least developed countries, we actually try to encourage the growing of different type of plant species, which have different leaf structure, because we do understand to say the variety of species will actually contribute more to carbon sequestration as compared to the monoforestry that is practiced in certain regions. So for developing countries, if a piece of land would actually encourage you to have different types of plant species growing on that particular piece of land, due to their varying carbon sequestration capabilities, you are able to generate more, absorb more carbon being absorbed by the plants as compared to having a particular plant species. That's just in addition to what Madam Zola has explained.
Okay, that's fantastic. So in essence, all of us can start selling carbon credits.
In essence, what we are saying is that if you are going to deal in carbon credits, right now, we need the communal kind of approach. For example, if you are in an area, let's say in a particular location, if a number of farmers can team up so that you have a larger area that has been set aside for the growing of particular plants, with the sole purpose of ensuring that the amount of carbon that is absorbed is actually enhanced. That is the way it should go. For example, as a government, we're trying to encourage, for example, instead of localizing the carbon programs in a particular locality, say you select a district. Let's say you pick a district like say Masaiti, for example, you say the entire Masaiti is a carbon area. So you are going to have a larger area, and as you have your larger area, in principle, the amount of carbon that is being absorbed from the environment is actually large, and the benefits that accrue to the community are actually higher than if you localize it to a smaller piece of land. So there's need for actually teamwork in this particular activity for the benefits to trickle down, and then people be able to see the benefits better that way.
Okay, so another question. Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Lou.
Yes. Maybe just an addition again, under forestry department, we have a community forest management guidelines, which guide the procedures and steps that need to be undertaken by communities, as we are talking about, as Mr. Myumba was saying, to be able to, reach that stage where they can be able to. There are various stages. I think there are about 8 or so stages. You have to have an agreement with the community. They have to sign. There is need for an executive and all those steps. So basically, we are talking of large areas of land. For instance, in Tafua, we have one community forest management area. I think it's about 65,000 hectares. Yes. So for the communities to be able to benefit more from the sale of carbon. Thank you.
So, Ms. Zulu, last year, Mr. Nzob was in Scotland, and he mentioned carbon credits as something that's going to be a big priority for the government. How does, on the government side, how does that work? I know Mr. Katontoka is back, he's going to talk about the commercial side of things, but how does it work from the government side?
I think what I can say from the government side is the same things we've been talking about, encouraging communities in their chiefdoms together with the partners who are facilitating that. For instance, in these areas we have under Lusaka, we have biocarbon partners, so that they are the ones who have a link with those countries who buy this carbon, who pay for the carbon. So I think it's from that point of view that government is promoting communal ownership and then be able to trade in carbon.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, Mr. Katontoka, welcome back. Did you want to share more slides, or you're ready for the questions? Mr. Chlau, you have a raised hand. Is it for Mr. Myoban, Ms. Zulu, or for Billy?
So I have a raised hand?
No, Mr. Chlau.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Mr. Chlau, go ahead. Councillor Chlau, Your Honor, you are hereby recognized to ask your question. Okay. So while Bill is still reconnecting, how much awareness do people have about carbon credits?
From the forestry point of view, we do a lot of community awareness on the importance of forests, and also these additional benefits other than just maybe timber. Most people look at charcoal, timber, maybe mushrooms, but in terms of the long-term sustainability, I think we do a lot of awareness creation to the communities. So now it is up to the communities, if they are agreeable, to go into that CFM or community forest management activity. But also, usually it would start from the partners themselves who are into these carbon businesses, like biocarbon partners. We have others as well, like Comako. So they begin engaging the communities together with the forestry department. So when they begin to do that, and then the process obviously will begin until such a time they are able to enter into an agreement to be able to trade in carbon, and how they will share and what activities they will use their funds for. So basically it's that way. Thank you.
Okay. Before, Mr. Chlau, are you ready to ask a question, or should I ask another one? Okay, so there are two people that have, one of them is on this call. Mr. Makombe is going to probably ask his own from the agriculture perspective. But I have a friend that has a game ranch, and with wild animals, and they're not going to exploit the animals in any way. So they fence the thing off and allowing people to just walk around the perimeter of this huge property, but they don't want to disturb anything on the inside. So if they made a claim that they're not going to build anything in there, they're not going to cut any trees, they're going to leave this environment as natural and pristine as possible, that a ground to file a claim for carbon credits to go sell some credits someplace. From a forestry perspective, they're not going to cut anything.
Well, I think before Madam Zulu comes in, when you look at the concept of carbon trading, we first of all need to understand the mechanism. I think the earlier presenter had actually alluded. There are a number of steps that have to be followed before any agreements relating to getting benefits from the carbon area have to be determined. So those steps, if a particular farmer decides to leave a particular piece of land for that particular purpose, there's need, I think like Madam Zula had explained, to do a baseline study to be able to determine the amount of carbon that will be absorbed in any given time frame in that particular locality. Then based on that information, that data that has been generated from that particular piece of land, that's when you engage these partners that we have, the different partners, I think Madam Zula alluded to them, so that they have some form of agreement with those buyers of those carbon. So what is critical is from my professional point of view, is to conduct a detailed assessment to be able to determine the amount of carbon that will be absorbed from the environment in a given locality, in a given time frame. So that is actually critical. That assessment is critical. When it comes to individuals, that's what to different community, the same applies. I think Mrs. Zula had explained this. There's need to actually engage the community and understand the amount of carbon that will be absorbed. And of course, this carbon thing is not something which can be done overnight. It takes years for you to be able to accrue a certain quantity, a tangible amount of carbon. No wonder we need a larger area in a larger time frame so to be able to absorb. For you to see the benefits, you really need a bit of time and a larger area in vegetative quantities to be able to get and to see the benefits of that. Maybe say that.
Oh, did you lose Mr. Miyoga?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think you dropped off for a little bit there.
Oh, okay, sorry. I can answer if in case any other questions. But what I was basically trying to say is it's just an issue of, as an individual farmer, there's need to conduct an assessment on your particular locality to be able to determine the amount of carbon that will be absorbed from the environment in a given time frame. Then it is from that study that you can use now to engage the buyers to say, if I've got my 20-hectare piece of land, and it has been proved that from a 20-hectare piece of land, quantity X of carbon is absorbed from the environment in 12 months. So basing on that information, you are able to engage these companies that buy these carbon credits for you to be able to monetize them now. That's nice. So that's what I was just trying to say.
Okay. I'm going to post in the chat this thing from the community markets for conservation. Komako. Okay, yeah, Bill is back.
Yeah, sorry, Doc. Sorry, Doc, about that. My sincere apologies.
No worries.
My boss just showed up, and I needed to attend. He needed some answers. I needed to answer those answers. Provide the answers. My apologies, gentlemen. My apologies.
Well, there's a lady too, Miss Zulu. She's a principal forestry officer for the GRZ.
Amai Zulu, how are you, Mama? Sorry for not
I'm well, thanks.
presence.
I'm well, thanks.
Okay. So if that's okay with the team, I can proceed and we have a healthy conversation.
Yes, sir, please.
Okay. Now, looks like I've shared the wrong slide because it's stuck. All right. So can you all can see my slides, right?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right. So I was just actually giving examples of some of the projects that have been, or sectors that will be covered under the NDCs, and the ones that have got asterisks next to them, like transportation, liquid waste, and core, which is production, transportation, and consumption. Those are new entries as to the time in July when the government was updating its NDCs. So in transportation, there's a conversation around EVs, that's electric vehicles, electric batteries. So those that will help us also to help reduce greenhouse gases via transportation. Of course, liquid wastes, more of chemicals from the mines and other processing companies like cement production. Of course, you know the fact that we also have quite good deposits of coal. So how we produce that coal, how we transport it, and how it's consumed, that also is being taken into consideration as part of Zambia's commitment for the national determined contributions. Having said that, let me quickly touch on the landscape regulation. So in Zambia, we do have the national long-term vision of the 2030 vision. So the vision 2030, where we aspire to be a prosperous middle income by 2030. So that's a very wonderful aspiration, but that aspiration will also have to come, and for it to come to be in place, it is underpinned by principles that speak to gender responsive sustainable development, democracy, respect for human rights, good traditional and family values, positive attitude towards work, peaceful coexistence, and private-public partnerships. So that in itself will help us to attain our status of a prosperous middle income by 2030. So we've got seven more years to come and mark ourselves and see whether we have achieved that. Also, the 8th National Development Plan, which is running up to 2026, 3 more years in which we need to ensure that the aspect of economic transformation and job creation has taken place or is taking place to the metrics that we've put in place ourselves. Human and social development, environmental sustainability, I can say on this one that we are not lacking behind. We seem to be moving in the right direction. Good governance environment, again, on this one, I can say that we're not lacking behind. We're moving in the right direction as well. So there's other regulatory aspects that speaks to what we need to consider when we are monetizing the environmental assets is the National Climate Change Responsive Strategy of 2010, where 9 priority sectorial adaptation and mitigation actions have been identified, including land use, water, health, and social infrastructure, physical infrastructure, transport, energy, mining, governance, and mainstreaming. So as you can see, we keep building. It's like we keep going back on and on one and the same or 2 aspects of our aspiration, which is very good because there's continuity. When we are talking about land use, it's also speaks to the sustainable agriculture, sustainable climate smart agriculture. So everything is linked in a way or so. Also, I think for our colleagues from the Forest Department, and I would love to hear your subject matter expert opinion on the Forest Act of 2015, which gives local communities right to control access and use of their surrounding forests, which authorization must be granted by the chief and the director of forestry. Also, there's the community forestry, which is a forest controlled, used and managed under an agreement between a community forest management group and the forestry department. And you see, our colleagues who have come from outside the country have read our rules, our laws and regulations. They have set up in Zambia, and they have been able to monetize some of the carbon credits for the community in which they are operating. I'm talking about Comaco, I'm talking about biocarbon partners. They have been able to issue carbon credits on this basis. But the only thing that is lacking in this aspect, or what has been lacking, is the aspect of transparency. And when we went to see the secretary to the Treasury as a bank to explain to the ST as to what we wanted to do, they were very pleased to say, at least as a bank, we will bring transparency to the game, because our people are being taken advantage of, where they sell carbon credits for $3 million and end up getting the community end up getting 5 kwachas each. It just doesn't translate well. But we are looking into coming in and normalize some of these irregularities in the market. So also there's I think there was an SI 66 that was recently also issued. Speaking to the rules that are set out in the Forest Carbon Stock Management Regulation, part of the 2015 Forest Act, it also stipulates the eligible activities in there. So we are talking about the deforestation reduction, forest degradation reduction, forest conservation, sustainable management of forest, enhancement of carbon stocks. And the eligible areas where you can do these activities are the national forests, local forests, private forests, national parks, community forest areas, game management areas, joint forest management areas, even on your farm, your private land or list, and many others. So it's important that before we embark on this journey, we get to read these acts and the rules, so that by the time we are embarking on them on the project initiation process, we are doing it within the confines of the law. So government gives the permits, and you can be a permit holder yourself, government agencies, businesses, international organizations, local institutions, community forest management groups, and joint management committees. And the application for all these permits must be done through to the Department of Forestry. So just to, now that I've given you the flavor of what the regulations are there and all, maybe let me bring it practically to what are we doing as a bank. So I want to give you an example where we say our way, and this is how we are helping smallholder farmers monetize their environmental assets. You know, traditionally as banks, each time someone comes to borrow money from us, we are always asking for collateral. And we want to take collateral for a house, a car, or anything that we know that it will make you pay back the money. Now, for the smallholder farmer in the rural area who has a mud house and has no land, no title deeds, how can you get collateral on such a property? So we sat back and scratched our heads, and then we said, but these are people who have grown trees on their farms. These are people that live around trees. They've got land that is full of trees. And we are saying that these trees are sequestering carbon into the soil. And this carbon can be quantified and be sold as credits. Then why don't we consider the trees or the environmental assets that these farmers have as collateral? And thereby, we generate carbon credits from the trees, give them the loan, and take a rent check to say, once we sell your credits, we'll come and deduct from the carbon credits and give you the balance. So that's the kind of product that we are just about launching to the market as Zambia Industrial Commercial Bank. And the way we've done it is we've looked at the challenges on the left-hand side and the solution on the right, or challenges on the left, left and solution on the right. So we looked at, say, challenges when setting up a carbon project is that the pre-financing costs are quite high, and most of our SMEs cannot access, don't have money to put up upfront, even let alone the smallholder farmers. But these farmers also are entitled to participate. Our solution, we have gone into partnership with Rabobank. Rabobank is a bank from the Netherlands. This bank has developed a program where they are looking at, because they are predominantly a farming cooperative and became a bank. So they understand farming very well. So they've gone on to promote regenerative agroforestry among smallholder farmers. And the focus is to improve yield at the farm, but then also reward smallholder farmers with carbon finance for the trees that they have on their farms. So by partnering with them, we have then created an offtake. We've got an offtake market where once we bring the farmers onto this program and they have the trees and we do quantification in partnership with Rabo, then we can be able to say, Rabo will buy those credits and they'll be able to send the money to us and we pay the smallholder farmers. And the quantums are already, they are always discussed in advance. So under this program, 80% of the carbon revenue goes straight to the farmer. 10% goes to Rabobank, 10% goes to ZICB. Nothing more, nothing less. So the farmer knows from the onset what he or she is going to receive once we do a project with them. The other challenge that we noticed is the high certification costs for the carbon projects. So in this case, under this program, we do have a pre-approved certification checklist under Plan Vivo. Plan Vivo is one of the certification standards in the world. There's Plan Vivo, there's Vera, there is Gold Standard, and Social Carbon. There are different standards, but Plan Vivo is the one that we're working with under this program. And then also, we understand that there is lack of information on carbon markets and carbon finance. So as ZICB, we've gone ahead and not only created a relationship with anchor off-takers, but we have also created relationships with standards creators who are able to come and train our people. Like for instance, in June, this month, on the 13th and the 14th, we've got Vera coming all the way from the States, coming to do a 2 days workshop to train our people on how they can develop a forest project, either RED plus or agroforestry or afforestation, whatever, anything that has to do with species of trees that are native and standing in Zambia, they are coming to do that training. On top of that, we have also invited a company from Israel. It runs a digital monitoring, verification, and reporting platform. So they use satellites and drones to measure the biomass of the tree and verify the amount of carbon that. So all these companies are coming to train the people on how they can develop a project and how they can access those platforms. And then of course, Rabobank will be at the same meeting. They will come and do their the training on the Econ framework. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is that we are creating an ecosystem where we build the capacity, where we handhold our customers to develop projects, and then until the end of them selling the carbon credits and they get the full value of their environmental assets. So basically, we are ensuring that our Zambian people do not get cheated out of the value of their assets. Just to give you a flavor of how the platform for Rabobank looks like, I don't know whether this can be seen or it's a bit too small, but yeah, so basically it starts with a farmer plants trees on number one, planted trees, and then we collect data through our partners. And then from there, then we measure the carbon. And once the carbon is measured, the credits are generated. And the anchor off-takers of the credits, at the moment, we have Microsoft, Standard Chartered Bank in the Netherlands. We've got DL Financial Services. So this list continues to grow because what we want to do is we continue to onboard companies that have got net zero KPI targets so that at the end of it all, then we have that outlet to release the carbon credits to as well. So in a nutshell, I think that is what I had in mind and that prepared for you to just share with you. That is one of our, that was last year. Last year, we financed an organization called Carbon Forest Zambia, ZICB and Rabobank. We helped them to raise 100,000 seedlings of cashew trees. We gave them one side, they got a grant from Rabo, but we gave them a loan at concessional rates. And these trees were given to smallholder farmers for free so that they can go back and gap fill where the trees had initially died. And yeah, that is the work that we are doing, and that's the opportunity that exists for our people in the country and anyone else who wants to participate in this space. I think, Doc, I would like to end here and invite any interventions, any questions, so that we can then see how we can work together. I submit.
This is some good stuff, my brother. It sounded like Greek to me in certain episodes was he explaining. It is very fascinating just to understand what's going on with carbon credit.
Yeah.
We have people here with some questions. I have some too, but I'll let others go first and then see what we can do. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for Mr. Katontoka, please go ahead.
Prof, can I just say one or two things?
Sure, please.
Yes. Firstly, I just want to say I'm so grateful to listen to this very elaborate presentation. And my observation is that the way this project is being handled is a bit different from the way the ones I mentioned earlier, like BCP, the one I'm conversant with, is doing things. 80% going to the smallholder farmers. That is, I think, a great, contribution to the communities. But yeah, as I think I've typed in the text, I think we should have had some of the partners here so that they can be able to explain. I think that as the presenter mentioned, that I think our communities are being given a raw deal because maybe the percentages which are going to the partners are higher than what is going to the communities in these chiefdoms, but also the trading bit is done like one-sided, so we don't know at what price they're selling and what is coming in. What is seen is just this percentage which is going to the communities. So I think I really like this approach, but I think next time let's have the partners so that maybe we can share notes and compare and see how best things can be done for the benefit of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. If you do have any partners in mind, I think I would love to, you can share the details, we can exchange notes so we can invite them even to the workshop that we're going to have.
Hello, Mr. Thompson, can I make a contribution as well?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Like Madam Zulu has explained, this is quite educational and it's quite good, but maybe my concern is for the workshops that you have lined up. I really don't know how the composition is to the attendance because I feel there's need to bring this message to the lowest level possible. I don't know if you are engaging the forestry department in those workshops so that there's this exchange of ideas. The partners like Madam Zulu and Mr. Msonda has explained, I don't know if they're also engaged, because we seem to have a one-sided type of thing. We need also to understand, the communities need to understand what goes on the other end, into where these partners are selling those. Maybe they could be able to explain why they give these raw deals. But for the for the bank's position, it's quite good, the 80%. But I just want to find out the engagement in that workshop. How have you structured it? Who is supposed to attend? And is it open for people that are interested in learning more?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Miyoba. Yes, the workshop is open for everyone and anyone. They can register and attend. Actually, the one who's officially opening the workshop will be the Minister of Green Economy, and some of the people that will be some of the presenters will be from the Ministry of Green Economy and the Department of Forestry. So at what extent and to what level we can go, how low we can go, I think that is a feedback that I'll take as a feedback from your end. Since it's open in public domain, whoever wants to attend, they can come and attend at Pamosi Hotel. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Yeah, any more questions? Okay, I wrote down some questions while people are coming.
Yeah.
So the credits are in form of cash, right?
Yes. So let's look at it like commodity trading.
Yes.
So where you do a futures trading on commodity market, where you say I'll deliver 2-3 years ahead, but this is what I expect to deliver, and the price today is so much. Then we'll sign what is known as a purchase, an emission reduction purchase agreement, and based on that, we either lock in the price today or wait and we just sign to say when it's time for delivery, I'll come and pay the market price. So yeah, that's right.
So more like hedging.
Yes. Most companies will use it for hedging purposes and hedging against the emissions. That's correct. But yeah, it's basically that.
So before I ask very specific questions about the process, I was in Southern Province 2 days ago. So driving past Katontoka, I saw those Mazedara cars, with coal filled to the brim. So that means we're still in the coal business as a country.
No,
well, one of the things
go ahead. No, go on.
Okay. Yeah, so that meant that these cars, train cars, there was at least a kilometer of them. There's a lot of them. In addition to that, you have the actual tracks, the road trains that we have, destroying the road. But anyways, so in terms of climate finance, that came out of climate finance protocols from the Paris agreements that you mentioned earlier. As a coal producing country, that's also a developing country, we are entitled to receive certain amounts of money from the climate finance protocols into government coffers. So to what extent does that happen at that high level?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question and very good observation. First and foremost, I would like to say, yes, we are still using coal. Yes, we are still polluting to some extent. But all that is going to change because you see, even the legal framework for our environmental low carbon pathway growth is yet to come in. There's a bill, a climate change bill that is yet to be drafted into law, whereas all these things are going to be enshrined. And for now, for as long as the climate finance is not flowing in, as long as the technology that's required for us to produce coal in a more efficient way is not available, we will continue to do that. It's just that we will have to find a different option that can help with abating some of the emissions that we emit. Because think about it this way. Despite, so I'll give an example of Australia. Despite Australia being developed, they are still producing coal. They are still selling coal, and they are still they are still using that product. So for us, it would be foolish for us to completely say no, we are stopping this and without having an alternative. Until that alternative is provided for, we need to continue growing as well as an economy. When it comes to what extent are the finances coming in? Doc, this is a very big conversation. Even when you go to these conference of parties meetings, the hesitation that's there for the developed countries to put money on the table. I mean, it's you just sit there and say, but okay, why are we here? I mean, why are we even talking? Because we don't seem to be putting the money where our mouth is. So pledges have been made. And to date, if you look at the pledges and the actual translation of those pledges into reality, it's next to nothing. So the desire is there, but the political will to fulfill the desire is lacking. And therefore, we can only do what we can do. But the only difference is that for us who are in developed countries, when it rains here, and when the rivers gets flooded, when the streets gets flooded with water, then you can actually feel the pain and the effect of climate change. And because we don't have such well-developed infrastructure, you suffer the consequences. And then it hurts because you're waiting for someone to give you the money to be able to develop and clear up that mess. So for me, my theory is, okay, Zambia, our neighbor has pledged to help us, but what are we doing about it ourselves? Can we look within ourselves and come up with something that then gets to be able to be an example or an indicator to show others to say, this is what we are able to do on our own without your help. So yeah, that is me being a philosopher.
That's nice. So now I've got specific questions about an individual.
Okay.
So here's an individual named Newton who wants to participate in this market, which seems like it has so many processes and so many regulations and so much investment upfront in terms of time, knowledge, number of people to see before you actually be on the program. And then as we heard from Mr. Miova earlier, it takes a long time for you to start getting the benefits. So how does one start getting on the path to join these programs? How do they get certified? By whom do they get certified? And what type of profile of an individual are these programs looking for?
Thank you so much, sir. First and foremost, I think I would like to begin with the best place to start from is with our government. Under the Ministry of Green Economy, there's a unit called NDA. NDA standing for National Designated Authority. These are the ones that have been given a mandate to be able to assess project idea notes. So an individual, Newton, needs to put down his ideas on paper, what he wants to do, and then submit those ideas to or the project idea note, submit the project idea note to the ministry through the National Designated Authority Office. Once the National Designated Authority Office receives that project note, they will then they will assess his idea, and if his idea is something that meets or fits under government's processes and plans under the NDCs, they will give Newton a letter called a letter of no objection. That letter of no objection gives Newton the authority to go ahead and develop a project, a carbon project. Now, with that letter of no objection, Newton will then come to a bank like ourselves and say, or go to any other financial institution or any other funder and say, I want to do this project and I've got a letter of no objection from the ministry. And then with that, then start helping Newton to put in place what is required. If he came here, would ask, has he got financing? If he has no financing and he wants us to finance, then would look at, okay, what project are you doing? At the moment, we seem to have a leaning or an inclination towards nature-based solutions, basically because that's the side where we have off-takers who can buy the credits. Okay. So with that, then we are able to say, okay, Newton, your project sounds interesting and looks interesting. Look, we are going to loan you upfront the funds for you to be able to develop this project. And then once the project generates the credits and we sell, then you are able to give us back the loan. So that is, I think, the sort of, in a nutshell, simplified process. What is key and critical is getting that letter of no objection, because the government needs to be aware about all of the project, and then they will advise. And once they advise, it means that the government is aware, and then you've got the authority to develop a project and able to sell the credits wherever you're going to go. So that is what is important. In terms of the profile of the individual, anyone can develop a project for as long as the project they're proposing is viable and sustainable. Yeah. Okay. So I hope that answers the question.
It certainly answers. Before others come in, so are you the only bank that's doing this, or others, FNBs and ACO, these other guys, are they also doing that?
It's like me. I don't want to know whether you're eating chicken in your house, or I only know the food that I'm eating in my house. But I would say that I would like to say we're the only financial institution, although the others they are also doing it, but the approach is different. I think maybe that's the right answer. They are doing it, but the approaches are different. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Mr. Ono, did you have a question?
I think my question has been answered, because I was looking at our communities, and they need information, they need also to be involved. But I think the start is always a bit of a challenge. So I was looking at growing up from the farming thing. I think I see a lot of people not knowing this and how to go about it. But definitely with partners or like forestry coming in, I think it's possible. I think that's what I wanted to contribute. But I looked at the process as something that is a bit long. And I know, as Mr. Miowa says, it will not take like a few months, you are done. I think it takes more. Thank you.
Thank you. I must mention here that when you're doing an agroforestry project, when you plant the tree, for the next 3 years, I think we start measuring we'll start measuring your carbon sequestration in year 3. So for the first 3 years, you continue to just nurture that tree until it grows. And that's why we emphasize or we tend to be inclined towards more of fruit trees, so that the farmer can then have other benefits other than just the carbon credits, either a fruit tree or just some trees that are able to add, that are nitrogen fixing, that help that helps the farmer. So I see a question from Catherine. Catherine is asking, are you considering an agroforestry project in Lusaka, considering the high levels of degradation in Lusaka province? If you do have a project, we can work with you. Like under the agroforestry project, our minimum requirement is that either you've got 5,000 farmers, smallholder farmers working with you, or the land size should be, actually the smallholder farmers working with you, each holding land between 1 acre to 10 hectares. Anything more than 10 hectares, we will start considering to say, no, then we need to do a project with you individually, and it will not fall under the RABO program that we have in place at the moment. It may have to fall under a different program that we are yet to put in place, which we are going to do so after the training on the 14th of June.
Okay. So,
right.
Was there a question?
No, I think I can't see any question in the chat.
Okay. So how do people get in touch with you?
Okay, so they can either come to our offices at Long Acres Mall, the new shopping mall at along Alikinkata Road, just opposite Unilas, or they can send me an email to the email address I'm typing in the chat right now. So,
Yeah.
okay, for you who is on the copper belt and would like to participate in the workshop, we are going to have live streaming, so you can follow us on, I think, go to this website, who is our partner that we are, Carbon Forest Zambia.com. Go to their website. Go to their website and that's a very good question, Newton. If there's a mismatch in the carbon credits, and also because they take long, and also if what happens if there's no delivery of the carbon credits? First and foremost, at the time that you're coming to us with a letter of no objection, because remember, you will have taken the letter, your concept note to the ministry. The ministry will have assessed your project, and for them to give you a letter of no objection, they must have seen viability. Once you come to us, we'll also do our own due diligence. We'll look at that project, will come on the ground, assess, and at that particular time, we'll make a decision whether we are investing in your project or not. So, yeah, I think that's the long and short answer to your question.
Yeah. Any more questions from Mr. Katontoka? We're coming up to 1 hour, 30 minutes. Well, it seems we're running out of questions here, but as usual, there's going to be more questions from people that either came and left because some people had to leave.
Yeah. And I apologize for stepping out in the middle of the presentation.
Fine. The information is really nice, and it's brand new information. Huh? So it's for a lot of us, we're just learning, from scratch.
Okay.
So we made the recording of your presentation, and we're going to share it in our alumni group.
Okay.
And, yeah, that comprises a lot of people doing different things. And
okay.
When Mr. Nzovu opens your meeting on the 14th, you should tell him about this meeting because he is one of us actually. So he's going to get the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
And, yeah, he's one of us. And you mentioned the ST Kulukusa is also one of us. So he's also going to get.
Excellent. Excellent.
And, you and me and Felix, we go back a long way.
Yes. Okay, no, that's very good.
Good old days.
Let's see what comes out of it and how we can grow, how we can stimulate Zambians taking part in this space and pushing the agenda.
No, you guys you're at the tip of the spear, in terms of advancing very innovative ways of financing things, So as many people as possible that can capture this information, I think will be benefit to the whole country, in my view.
That's true. That's very true.
So we really appreciate your generosity of time, expertise, and just your willingness to come on and share this important information with us.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you for inviting me. I appreciate your initiative as well, and I envy the St. Paul's alumni. I think I need to start thinking of how do I make one from my secondary school as well.
Yeah, that would be nice.
yeah. Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Does anybody have any last minute contribution or question before we close the meeting? Okay. Well,
all right.
It's a very good